Okay, now what I hope you have noticed is that our perfectly theoretically exact valley has turned into a bit of a surprise. Because what's happened? Go on, Sam. Yeah, it's what was flattening out into a nice flat bottom valley at I think location 4 or last but one of our measuring points has turned into a bit of a surprise. We've got a very steep, if you look in that section upstream, a very steep V shape, and if you look downstream, in fact, a very steep sided V shape at the bottom of that valley there. So something peculiar and strange has happened. Any suggestions? Well, I hope it, well, things are looking bright on the rainfall front, but we won't wish for it. Oh, rejuvenation is an excellent suggestion. The valley, for some reason, has been rejuvenated. We have got a V shape, which gives us what type of erosion? Vertical erosion. So for some reason, against expectations on a nice simple theoretical valley, this particular stream has eroded down after it seemed to have started to have eroded laterally. Around that tree that we pointed out, it was starting to cut sideways. Very predictable, exactly what we expected. But for some reason we've had this lateral erosion, and the suggestion is that it is rejuvenation, which is a lovely word, but what does she mean by it? Do you want us to tell us? You don't want to tell us, but you got the right word. But what do we mean? What does Excellent. There has been a fall in a base level. Now the end of our long profile is base level, and if it's a dead simple river, that long profile ends at the sea, and the sea is the general base level. But you can get local base levels that a stream will erode down to. And the suggestion here is that we can explain this rejuvenation by something that was probably happening rather locally down in the main valley. Where Church Stretton is the main Church Stretton Rift Valley. And they reckon, a suggestion is that during the Ice Age it was deepened by a glacier. So that valley that this stream goes into got deepened. So after the Ice Age, this stream started to erode down to that new lower main valley, a new local base level as opposed to the sea being the general base level. So that starting down at the confluence with that river in the main valley, that river, this stream, started to cut down. It would have been a waterfall possibly when it started, and it's working its way back just like any waterfall does. It's working its way back upstream, grading itself. Are you aware of graded rivers? So it's grading itself to the new lower local base level, and the point that it reaches in changing itself as it works its way back, adjusting to the new base level, is called on the long profile, a nick point. Excellent. Now somewhere on here there may well be a series of nick points. I doubt if it was just one event that has happened here, but generally speaking that process is happening here, that a nick point or a whole series of nick points is working its way up this valley. That's the effect on the long profile, is a nick point. But on the cross profile we get a very marked effect, because what we get is effectively what I call a V in a V shape, because there's the original V shape, but then in the bottom of the V you get a new V shape, result of the new vertical erosion. so steep and so rapid it's been, it's actually referred to as a gorge. It's a gorge, and we're on the edge of the gorge, very nearly into the gorge if you weren't careful where you were treading just back there, because it's an extremely steep drop down into that gorge. So although it may not be in a textbook about a classic valley with a lovely predictable long profile all the way down, it could be in a textbook about rejuvenation. This is a nice little example of a rejuvenated valley in this section, which, if you needed to give a case study in an exam, this section of Ashes Hollow was an example of a rejuvenated stream. And I don't know, it's nearly stopped raining. If you have got a piece of paper that's dry, that was the field sketch we were going to draw, and the field sketch would include just about, you haven't got much of the plateau surface, but you've got the V shape, the original V, and then by that rock outcrop there, you've got a deeper V in the bottom of it. So you've got this V in V cross section which you could have labelled, and then you've got pretty much characteristics of a V-shaped valley again down there. So it's totally surprised us in terms of what we were expecting. About 300 yards up there we got this gorge section, result of rejuvenation. Okay.